C'est en Irlande que nous avons rencontré Ken Loach. À Cork, dans le sud du pays, où il prépare son prochain film sur la guerre d'indépendance irlandaise. Tendu et inquiet, à quelques semaines de son tournage, Ken Loach s'est finalement livré. Tendre et modeste.
Yes, I was not a great enthusiast for the cinema when I was young, but there were 5 cinemas in the small town I lived in, and it was mainly a good reason to not to be in the house or to take girls, and so it was mainly my first memories are mainly about Saturday nights and what happened in the cinema rather than what happened on the screen. The best memories of the cinema were seeing the Italian films and the French films of the 1950s, because even though it was a small town, there was one cinema that showed European films, and unfortunately you tended to get bitten by small animals in the cinema, but the films were good. No, we did plays at school and with amateur groups, and I would visit the theatre a lot, and that was my background, was theatre and the classic writers, Shakespeare and the Elizabethans and Restoration plays and Ibsen, Strindberg and all that. I started to enjoy films when I was a student, and then it was seeing the French films of all periods of French films and Italian films particularly, and Bergman and Eastern European films, and then began to get a sense of what cinema could be, and that'd be the late 50s, I guess. And then, but at that point I was very keen to work in the theatre. But it was only afterwards that I was able to put the possibility of making films alongside the taste for films. I was working in the theatre and working very little in the theatre and mainly doing odd jobs and working in cafes and things, and was taken on at the BBC to direct television. And in those days, the television was electronic. I mean, you made electronic plays, and they were called plays. And working with a group of people, our project became to turn the electronic plays into films. And the critical point was reached with a production called Up the Junction, which was really a picture, a mosaic of working class life. And we managed to shoot that on 16mm and to use the electronic camera as though it were a film camera, and then to cut it like film. So that was the defining moment really for me, when making television plays turned into making television films.
Oh, yes I could make you such a bad little girl. You'd be a glad little girl if only you were a bad girl. Oh, little girl, pretty little girl, I wouldn't let you be sad, I would make you so glad. Hear me crying, oh, little girl, pretty little girl.
And why did you leave out theatre totally, as far as I know?
I wasn't a very good actor, really. I have to face the facts. I would have starved if I'd carried on being an actor. And then the more absorbed you become in film, and film has a different style of presenting drama, different style of acting, then that, in a way, that becomes more engrossing. Well, the group I was with had been thinking about cinema quite extensively, and we'd seen the Italian films, the neorealist films, De Sica, we'd seen Antonioni, which was very popular when I was a student. We'd seen the French New Wave cinema. So we were thinking about cinema and the grammar of cinema in the course of making television plays, because it deals in wide shots, close-ups, panning shots, and so on. So we were considering the grammar of cinema. But more important than that, really, was the dealing with what is drama, what makes drama, what's the point of it, what's its function in a mass medium. What elements do you have to assemble to make a dramatic narrative? The conflicts, the narrative, the resolution, the how can you find a story that reveals more than the simple narrative it tells? I mean, the big questions of drama we've been dealing with for some time.
I mean, he's a nice enough fella.
Hey, Sylvie, you know all that glitter I put on my hair?
Yeah.
Well, it came off on Terry's cheek while we was dancing. I never had the heart to tell him, though.
Do you know, I reckon that Dave's married. Oh, I dare say he is. He looks a bit randy, that Dave. You can tell by his eyes.
Oh, shut up, will you? I wouldn't mind going with a married man, you know, except I couldn't bear in mind he's going home to his wife.
Oh, see that bit there? Does it look all right?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's no gaps. Can I borrow your lacquer, love?
Yeah, that's
Do you know,
it.
the minute
That's
I
right
set
there.
eyes on that, Dave, I thought, wow.
I think the film called Up the Junction, which was made for the BBC, and that is a film, even though part of it was shot in a studio with electronic cameras. But in its essence, it is a film. But I think what's important to say is that the reason to try to make a film rather than to make an electronic play was because you could get closer to the reality that you were trying to describe. So we didn't try to make a film because we had a romantic notion about cinema. We tried to make a film to get closer to the people we were trying to describe. Right.
That's right, and then the covering it.
But are we getting it all in for one price, in fact?
Yeah, we're just going to give a donation because the town own the town hall, so basically anything we use in here, we just give a donation to the town, so everyone benefits, I suppose.
Right.
They can't afford to do it up, so hopefully we'll help out.
Don't worry, we'll just go straight out to the outside. We can just go straight out, because Anthony...
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that another day. And then...
Back out this way.
We'll have a street. The first film in the cinema was called Poor Cow, and it was, I learned a huge amount through doing that, again, just about the working out the industry and how the industrial process can destroy what you want to put on the screen, and how, in a way, you have to subvert the normal process of making a film in order to say something individual. I think the first film, the one I regard as the first film, Up the Junction, is a rather better film because I think it's more precise and it's more rigorous. No Tears for Joy, Poor Cow, I think is a more, tries to be cinematic, in inverted commas, and then becomes self-indulgent. So I don't think it's, I think the people in it were good, and the the story was good, but my work wasn't very good. Oh, well, lots of memories, some good, some bad. I mean, a good memory is always when the actors take you by surprise by the depth of their response or the strength of their feeling or either their comedy or their pain, and that is always the highlight of shooting, is when what is happening in front of the camera just takes off, and that's all. I mean, in Cathy Come Home, there was a really important moment where Cathy, the girl playing Cathy, just collapsed in tears, you know, and that's always a memory that is very strong. Well, I think the group I was with in television and stayed with in the cinema was a group that came together in the 60s, which was a very political time. And we were interested in exploring political ideas and in representing them in the lives of real people and representing that conflict. So in a way, that has been central to everything we did from day one, and because I think that's a central role for drama, particularly drama in such a mass medium as this. I think if you don't tackle those issues, then there's a kind of irresponsibility about that. If the story you're telling will have conflict and it will have a social context, so you have to then understand the root causes of that conflict and the reality of the social context. And if you turn away from that, you're not really doing your research. You're not really exploring the core of the drama. So I don't think it's not, for me, it's not an option to walk away from that. The most important thing is working on the script and the story and the narrative and the characters and why do you want to make this film? What's the core of the film? And that's the most important thing. And discussing the consequences of the film and the implications of the story. And that's the most important thing. So you need to have solved all the problems of the film before you start to shoot it. Because if you don't, the problems emerge in the shooting and then you can't do anything about it. Well, it seems to me, and it's in my personal opinion, that directing a film and writing the script are two separate talents. And because you can direct a film doesn't mean you can write. And because you can write doesn't mean to say you can direct it. And I think it's one of the major heresies of filmmaking, is to think that you have to write and direct. I think it's quite wrong. They're separate talents. But having said that, both the director and the writer have to start from the center of the idea so that you work on it together, you know. And I mean, I'm very pleased when the writer comes to the casting sessions. Paul, I'm working with now, has just been here, and we've just gone around the locations together, and we're amending the script to fit the places. And he'll come to the shoot, and he'll come to the cutting room, and we work together. But it's a separate talent. It's not as big as I thought it is it?
Yes.
And we'll have to put defendants, the merchant and the woman, I guess, over there.
So they're facing this way?
So they're facing that way, and we'll stand over, they'll be over there. And then when they hand them out, they'll go out to the hallway.
Yeah.
And in fact, you'll have to do something to that door, won't you, and everything?
Yeah, apparently the original doors were here and they put in these. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it, and a repaint.
And a repaint, yeah.
Okay.
That's it?
So that's it. We'll speed on that. Having found the people to play in the film, who should have something in common with the characters, usually. And then it's a question of preparing them for the film, for the relationships that exist, or what they would know at the start of the film, and then shooting in sequence and letting the story unfold. And they have the scripts in sections so that they don't necessarily know what is going to happen in 3 days' time, so that you play a scene with every possibility open. There's a sense of danger, and it keeps everybody very sharp. It's very demanding because you rely on the actor's instinct, right, to respond in the way that is natural and authentic. If the actor says, when you get to a point in the script, well, I wouldn't do that, I would do something else, then you have a problem. So it's a test of the script and the idea that the actors will respond in the way that you have designed the story and designed the film. So it's a very difficult balance to make certain that the characters at the start set out in such a way that they will naturally follow the lines of the narrative and naturally follow the choices the character makes. I mean, one example that comes to mind was the end of Lady Bird, Lady Bird, the film you mentioned, where the woman playing Chrissy, who played the woman who has her children taken away, throughout the film she thought it was a happy film. It was going to be a happy film. So at the end, when the last child is taken by the social services, she couldn't believe it. And her grief was overwhelming, really. And I think if she'd known in advance, oh, this is going to happen, she would have had to artificially create it. But because it happened in front of her eyes and she didn't know it was coming, she couldn't believe it, you know. And it was filming her incredible, her sense of incredulity was what the content of the scene was. And so the only way to do that, I felt, was to put her in a position where that would happen without her thinking about it.
I mean, they just said they...
Maybe Colin, I'm Kevin McNally from Social Services, this is my colleague.
Sarah Thompson.
You know that there's been one or two things we've been concerned about, and a decision, we came to a decision last week where we will have to take the baby to a place of safety.
What safety? The baby's safe.
Yeah.
And you have no right, and we can go with the baby to the court if you want. But you don't need to take it, okay?
It is something that's...
Ma'am, just go to your office.
Georgie, it's illegal.
Just leave us alone. Just leave us. No, just get out of here.
Get away! Get away! Get away!
Get away from my baby!
It developed when I started doing television plays, where we began with a read-through. Everybody sits and we read the script. And those were the best performances, with the read-through. And then when the directors started to speak, everything went downhill. So the lesson for me was you must say as little as possible. But put people in a good position so that they can be as good on film as they could possibly be. You kind of share the experience and, in a way, prepare the ground. It's like if you plant a, sorry to be so metaphorical, but if you plant a bulb in the soil, you have to till the soil. The bulb will take care of itself, but it's the circumstances in which you put the plant that is important. It's the same with directing actors. It's the circumstances they're in that make them good. I think what you can learn at school, you can learn in half a day, you know, and still have a good coffee break. Because the essence of it is very simple. The essence is you arrange for something to happen and you photograph it. It's very simple. But the important thing is what you choose to photograph, really. And that's a much deeper question that you don't learn at. Well, there's no way you can learn at film school. It's about something else.
I thought I'd given you an end shot when we went up the stairs.
If you were to start from scratch all over again today, would you?
I can't imagine starting from scratch. What a nightmare. Would I? Sorry, what was the question here?
What would you take several? What ways would you take, or what would you do? Would you adopt?
Well, it's an impossible question because the process is about gaining experience. So you can't start with experience, you know. So and I've been extremely fortunate in that the lesson I would start with is that you must. I said before, you must subvert the existing way of making films. But I've been very fortunate in working with people who share that point of view. So I've never been the victim of a big studio or a big organization. In that respect, I've always been able to work pretty well in the way I thought we should.
There, yeah.
Excellent.
So, see if he turns up and what he's like.
Right, okay.
Anyway,
They're paying a huge fee for your appearance in this. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's several hundred euros for this.
We better go on.
Yeah, okay, bye-bye.
Is there a film in particular where you think there is maturity, where you felt that, well, I did a good film, or I did something good?
No, I don't think so. No, I think the moment you feel that, you should stop. Because it's your dissatisfaction with what you've done before that makes you want to do another. Sun's gone in. It's nice. It's okay.
She's going to be sulking.
Yeah, that's right. No. Well, filming in Ireland is rain and sunshine and here come again. God is a cameraman. Well, it depends how young. It depends how young the filmmaker is. But I would say work in the theatre to begin with, because then you learn about how to work with actors. When you make a film, you have a cameraman who knows about camera work. You have a sound recordist who knows a lot about sound recording. You have an editor, you have an art director. You have no one to tell you how to work with the actors. And I think a lot of people, directors, go in and start making films. And that's the last thing they've considered. So if you work in the theatre, you learn two things. You learn the content of the drama, and you learn how to become part of the actor's way of thinking.